All right, greetings and welcome. Today we're going to look at web drivers. We're going to look at web drivers and we're going to look at we're going to talk today about web drivers, innovation and security. And I felt that this was an important topic to talk today because it encompasses a lot of topics into one small session, and that's what I liked about it. And it introduces some of the tools that I like to use on a day-to-day basis. So abstract at first, but let's get into it so you can understand what's going on here. So first things, there's four things I want to go over today, right? We're going to go over first the Capybara framework, then we're going to go over Microsoft WebDriver, then we're going to go to C# and Windows executables, and we're going to go into the security implementations of it all. So let's first start out with the Capybara framework. So this right here is the E2E Ruby file in Capybara. And Capybara is a end-to-end software. And it's very good. It's powerful. Those of you know end-to-end testing and Selenium and Java, not fun, right? Very difficult to get things to cooperate, very difficult to get around. And writing that stuff is a bit much. But Capybara here is amazing. It is awesome. We have something here called the DSL, and this DSL sits on top of Selenium and makes things very, very easy. And Capybara is the ET framework not only for end-to-end testing, but can be used for browser automation as well. Say on your own personal lives when you need to fill out some forms on the web, or you need to, or say in work where you need to do some web scrapping. This is amazing because this software allows you, takes advantage of, makes the most, optimizes Selenium, as well as makes it ergonomic for the developer in order to get to every part of your web app. And about web apps, this does not have to be written in Ruby on Rails. This does not have to be a Rails application. It could be any application. As you can see, if we're going to take a look here, we are running an Angular application, TypeScript, nothing to do with Ruby. Very different from what we have going on with Ruby on Rails from the MVC and into observables and reactive programming. So very different, very different. However, we're still able to run it. Capybara is a standalone end-to-end application, and not being sponsored or anything is perfect, is amazing. I recommend it. And I also recommend Ruby as a programming language too. Rails is difficult. Rails is a bit much as well, but Capybara is will be a very great reason to learn Ruby. And Ruby itself as a programming language, it's great. There's actually a lot of new concepts in there that will increase your skills as a software developer that I learned. And I would say Ruby and Capybara both, definitely. So if you can look into it, right? I just gave you a brief overview of how these tools definitely allow you to do plenty in the world of automation. So that's that. And now we're going to go over the WebDriver. We're going to talk about Microsoft WebDrivers and WebDrivers in general. So we're going to compare a WebDriver to a keyboard. So keyboard, right? In order to type, you press a key, right? But you can't. It just doesn't make sense if you press a key and it just pops on the screen just like that. What you need to have happen is we need to have a driver. So we have our keyboard and our driver, and we have a sensor that sends that information to our driver. So every time I press a key, we have a sensor that fires off, that senses that I press the key and fires off and sends that information to the driver. And that driver further takes that information and makes it in a way so that our OS can interpret it and says, okay, this means print the label K in Visual Studio Code at this position, and so on, and so on. So that's what a driver does. And the same thing here for WebDrivers. So WebDrivers allow software, right, to send information in order to, in this case, print a key, in order in this case to automate the browser. And that's what WebDrivers allow us to do. So if you're going to go into our Ruby binaries here and I place them in Java, obviously you could just write the absolute path, relative path to your WebDriver and get going. But in Capybara, it would like to see this in your binaries. Reason being, it's a security standpoint. Much more secure if a piece of software is going through a path, then it's allowed to take any path and just execute it as a string, given as a string into its program. Why? Because it's much more difficult from a security standpoint to come in and modify the path, especially in enterprise application development. And instead of going there, gain access to the file system and modify some files and do an upload. Obviously, getting into folders in the path, they're going to be elevated privileges, and you would want your drivers to be in an elevated folder and nowhere else, and not have your software give the attacker the option to type in a string, and voila, they're running exploit. And that we're going to point it into the security standpoint later. So we have a couple of drivers here. We have a Chrome driver for Google Chrome. We have Gecko for Mozilla Firefox, IE. And what we're going to focus on is the Edge driver. So now if you go to the download page for the Edge driver, Microsoft Edge Legacy, we're not using the latest Microsoft Edge Chromium, some people call it Edge Legacy. And we have the latest because I have Microsoft Edge already ready to go. So we already have the latest, right? So what we're going to do is, if you don't have it available, what we want to do is we're going to go into PowerShell and run it as an admin. And what we're going to do is we're going to run this command. We're going to run this command here. Now I already have it, so I don't need to run it. And there's a lot of system modifications. So I won't go in there because I have to restart my computer. But long story short, it will be in the C Windows System 32 folder. Let me see if I can get the path. No, you can't really get the path. Let me just go ahead and try to show you where it is. It's in C/Windows/System 32. /System 32. You're going to take that, you're just going to copy it into your Ruby binaries, as you can see here, which is located in C Ruby and then /bin for your binaries. You're going to copy it and paste it here. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to change the name from Microsoft WebDriver to Microsoft WebDrivers, and we're going to show you why. All right, so Microsoft, so when using when using software in general, sometimes we need to run third-party software, and this third-party software is our Microsoft WebDriver, right? We need it, like I said, we need a driver in order for Capybara to automate on the browser. So let's right now, right? We changed the name, so let's just see what happens. We try to use Capybara. Right. Go ahead and download it, obviously, but we're going to. I just want to point out that we just want to have that. We just want to have the exact name. So now we're just going to give it the exact name. We're going to run it again, and it's not going to work, and we're going to see why. We're going to see the Edge browser, which is nice, and then there's an application, but it closes immediately, and we get an error. And this is where we come into our third topic, which is C# and Windows executables. So C# overview. C# is Microsoft as a piece of programming language software, and as well as .NET, which is made by Microsoft, developed by Microsoft to develop applications. I believe web applications as well, but C# is the programming language behind it. They're just like there's HTML and JavaScript. .NET is the HTML, and C# is your JavaScript. And what's very, very great about C# is that its compiler, its CSC, can compile down and make Windows executables. And I do think it would be very, very easy just to get a Windows executable going. In Linux, obviously in the dash, you type in, you make a script, a shell file, and that's it. But in Windows, it won't take it won't take arbitrary commands as a executable. It actually wants this thing compiled. And that's great. That's a security. That is actually a security feature. That means I can't just type in a batch file with a couple of commands and expect it and insert it into an elevated folder in my path. Say if I'm a hacker and I was able to gain access and expect it to run, it would be actually a valid format. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at now what happened. We're going to see why it's important for us to able to know how to gain access to these and compile a Windows executable with C#. But first, we're going to look at what happened, why we got that error. So 500 internal server error. We're going to look at our logs here, and we're going to see, and we're not going to make you dig. We're going to look at this. The following JSON wire protocol command endpoint is not allowed in servers running W3C. What that means is that before W3C mode, there is a JSON wire protocol standard, and obviously it's less secure. And we're going to see that because it's not the default anymore. So if we dash help, right, we're going to see it's the default option, standard protocol, right? So it's obviously an industry standard. So right now, JSON write protocol was a legacy option. And usually when something is a default option, it usually means industry standard we're using right now. And anything before is either it's legacy or it's not developed property. Either way, the most secure is the most standard. As we're moving towards security, cybersecurity focus in the future, we're obviously just going to see more of that. And that's great that Extract was doing that even as from like a year or 2 years ago. So what we need to do, unfortunately, is JSON wire protocol, right? But if you take a look at the actual executable, we're gonna see very quickly that it's compiled into binary, and we just can't go in there and modify it. That's why we're going again. That's why we're going to take this C#, and we're going to take this C# program, and we're going to compile it, and we're going to get what we need. And just want to go over security implications. Security implications is going to be at the end of this, because we first need to demonstrate what's going on here, and we can show you, then you can explain the security standpoint better. So what we're going to do, right, is we can take our logs, we have our testing framework. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run the CSC command. And now this is basically our C# compiler. But before you try to run this command, it's not on your path. Which means that if you try to run it, you're not going to be able to, your computer's not going to be able to see it, and it's just going to give you an error at that point. So what you want to do is you want to go to your path here, system path or profile path, and you want to make sure you have this path, C/Windows/Microsoft.net, this path right here. This is the path that is available, where your C# compiler is, and it's not available by default. Very interesting. I'm probably thinking that the average everyday user is not going to use it. But another thing I just wanted to point out in terms of security, never think you ever have to download something. When I was first looking on how to make Windows executables online, download. Even on prestigious sites such as Stack Overflow tell you to download. You never want to download. You always, your computer, if you take a look at a computer here, I do have some runs. I do have some to look at Microsoft Store, right? You don't have to buy things either. But if you take a look at your computer here, we have 200, we have about 30 gigs left of space, right? And so we're basically using 200 gigs. So just a rhetorical question. At 200 gigs, and not one of these files can help me turn a C# program into a Windows executable, right? So whenever people tell you to download, always look for option. We always look for option. Download is the last thing, because this, from a security standpoint, this is how a lot of viruses, this is how financial information gets stolen. When people tell you to download, you download it. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't do it. But the main culprit is that you don't need to download. All the stuff that you ever need to do software-wise is usually on the computer, usually available on the computer, and you just need to unlock it. And on the path here is the key to unlocking many of these things, because apparently this was not in the path, but it was in the Windows where all your where all the computer programs are that it needs to run. And this compiler, it needs to be able to turn programs into executables, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead, and before we do that, right, we're gonna take a little bit of look, right? This is the file we need. So you just need exactly like this, right? And right, and now we're going to modify. We're going to be a little innovative here. So we're going to modify our actual WebDriver, as you could see, right? Very careful, or else you're going to have to go ahead and get back your WebDriver. Make sure you actually change the name, or else you're going to lose your WebDriver. Because when you go ahead and compile this Microsoft WebDriver CS, it's going to turn into Microsoft WebDriver EXE. And if the names aren't different, then it's just going to overwrite your actual driver. Something you want to be very, very aware of. So now we're going to go ahead and compile it. So we have it compiled, and now we have our NITM Microsoft WebDriver, and it's a man in the middle. And now when we go ahead and run our E2E application, we are actually going to get a passing result. So let's go ahead and do that current. And what was important was that this argument, JSON wire protocol, this is what we need. This is what our logs was telling us that we need to do in order to get our program working. So let's go ahead. And there you go. So we got it to pass. And it's very interesting. It's very amazing. And that was simple. As simple as using C# and opening and just unlocking some keys. Hey, we're able to download anything. So say if we had no network, we're able to take a driver, take something we couldn't do, and turn it into something that we could do. So now let's talk about the security behind all of this, the security implications, right? Automation. You just saw that a browser was able to open up, was able to interact with the video element. Very difficult, but something very easy you can do with Capybara. And you're able to modify, and you're able to take a binary and trick it, and trick it by giving it the same name. Unfortunately, you didn't do check, but from the security standpoint, this is obviously a hack, because these web drivers, given the time, these web drivers, if I try to, we're going to look at the help option for the web drivers again. Help, right? And host, port, and silent, right? Some of these, right? This is important because we could take some of these drivers now, right? We can make them silent. We can make them unnoticeable, and we can go ahead and have these running on host servers, host computers, if we're able to infiltrate them. And now when someone opens up a browser, say a Chrome browser, see, right? And someone opens up a Chrome browser, you know, data is getting stolen. Very, very important, very, very important. So, you know, it's very secure that, so the hack basically was that Capybara is amazing and secure testing framework, but it overlooks the fact that even though it has your drivers in elevated paths, such as my main Ruby system binary, it's not even about the name. It's about understanding what the file is itself, which is very, very important. That also always we want to run our files to make sure that number one, the file is actually the file it's supposed to be. We can't just trust the name alone, as you see here. As we see here, we want to go ahead and actually take a look at this file, or actually have software take a look at this file for us. So I'd like to you can use hashes, right? And one way to do that, obviously with hashes, unfortunately we don't have a hash here. Well, where obviously we're going to talk to Microsoft Edge about providing hashes for its drivers, right? Very important. Well, another way you can do that is you can use a file command, and what you can see here, our WebDriver, the one that we compiled with C#, and our WebDrivers are one that are the actual WebDriver. And when you run the file command here in Linux, Kali Linux, for example, you see that we have different descriptions. We have something slightly different, but different yet. We have a 32-bit application written with net assembly, right? So it's that net framework I was talking about. And we have a 64-bit executable, which is our actual executable. And we see that these files are very different. So if you run the file command, you just see that description is different alone, even slight, but even significantly different, it can act like a hash for you. And you can say, hey, this is our file. So obviously, and you don't want to be doing this, you want your software to be doing this. Obviously, by using the system command in Ruby, very, very easily can get that done with the system and invoke the OS. And as I said, you run Taskill, right? We could use software. I'm not sure what the file version is command for executable is in Windows. I have to dig deep, but use that system command and verify the executable integrity before we run anything. So I just wanted to point out on how this innovative act that I was able to use for my end-to-end testing can also be a hack, and where I can use browser automation to do a lot. And if I get on the host computer, usually all the credentials are stored in cookies. And if my browser has access to that, and to that as it's using its WebDriver, which I'm sure it is because it's opening up the browser, as if it was a user, which is Capybara ETE doing, then that could mean a lot of potential danger. So you always, really the goal of this video today was to always check out the file integrity. Obviously Microsoft Edge doesn't have it, but other drivers might have hashes to provide it. So you always want to hash against anything, any third party before you use it. And that's why I say I want to avoid downloading, right? Because even if you get the hash, you can also go a step further and do it reverse. You want to check out the file description to see that the file you downloaded is actually the file that makes sense for the operation you need to. All right, so that was my video for today. That's what I wanted to demonstrate. And thank you for watching. Follow up, please like and subscribe. And definitely. All right.